Ever wake up feeling like you're going to meet somebody, make a connection, or have a good day? Ever wake up on the wrong side of the bed and feel like you're not going to meet anybody? And have you ever switched gears in midday and say, hey, I'm not going to let this take me down anymore? The morning I decided to go for a hike with the twins and my dog Bruin, I could have been upset that I had to work on Mother's Day and that I wasn't going to see the twins that weekend and that they had to go to their dad's house. I could have been upset that my job that I was working at wasn't really the right fit for me anymore. But no, instead, I woke up. It was a beautiful day, and I knew I was going to meet somebody. So much so that I brought a business card with me. And when I walked down that path and I saw Joe, I could have turned. I could have taken the boys and the dog down another path to avoid having to talk to anybody. But instead, we went straight for that stream, let the dogs play together, let the twins play with Joe's dog. And I opened up the opportunity to talk to this stranger, which led to a walk, which led to me forgetting my leash. But ultimately, it led to me handing over that business card that I had in my pocket because I was open to the idea of meeting somebody that day. So if you want to learn more, continue watching. When I met Joe, I was a single mom with a dog and two kids. I had gone through a long and hard divorce. I had very few connections. I dated here and there, but nobody was quite right. But I had done a lot of soul searching during that year. I recognized that the areas that I was struggling in was my own ability to have self confidence, my ability to embrace the good, to be able to trust that I could turn a negative into a positive. Over the last 12 years, I've intentionally worked on eliminating negative thoughts. The way I spoke to myself diminished my self confidence. The way I carried myself and believed in myself from my 20s to my 30s. And then something happened. I decided to change everything. I knew that I was the one who was holding myself back from making real connections, having the self confidence that I needed to transform my life. I used to get so nervous meeting people. I hated it. I felt like I didn't know what to say, I didn't know how to behave. I was incredibly shy as a kid. I had a stutter, I had a learning disability, and it made it really difficult for me to make connections, make friends. I struggled all through my middle school years, high school years. But there was this moment that I decided to stop being shy. And I realized it's a decision, it's a choice, it's a skill that we need to work on. If you feel anxious or nervous about talking to people, guess what? You got to talk to more people. If you feel nervous or anxious or overwhelmed having to present at work, you got to do it more often. It's basically a muscle. If you go to the gym once a year and you wonder why you didn't get any results, it's because you only went once. And if you're looking to make connections, you have a world of people all around you. You can't expect for yourself to make a connection with somebody on the very first try or the very first time you're willing to talk to somebody. You're going to have to go to mixers and the gym, and you're going to have to find all sorts of different locations that make you happy. Because guess what? If you go to places that make you happy, you're going to find people that also think that that place makes them happy too. I loved walking on trails with my dog. He was amazing. He was easy to walk off leash. He always listened. And he was so loving and playful with all dogs and kids and people around. He was a great way for me to meet people because he met them for me. And the day I met Joe, I knew I was going to make a connection. I knew I was going to meet somebody, so much so that I brought a business card with me. And I could have turned, I could have seen him down on that path and said, never mind, I don't feel like talking to anybody today, and gone a different direction. Or I could have stood there and ignored him. But instead, I decided I was going to make a connection that day with somebody. So I was open and curious, and I wanted to find out who this person was. I didn't know whether or not I'd fall madly in love with him and marry him one day and buy a house with him and start a YouTube channel one day and get ready for retirement. I knew I was going to meet somebody. And I was so fortunate to have met him because he created all this by simply believing in me and reminding me to believe in my authentic self, to be me. The people you want in your life should lift you up, make you feel excited and happy to be in their presence. You should think of creating connections with people all around you through positive influence, through compliments and connection. The day I met Joe, I knew I was going to make a connection with somebody. I knew that if I was open to meeting somebody, I could meet somebody. If I was open to trusting and loving again after divorce, I could fall in love again. I recognized that I was the one standing in my way, that I was believing all the negative thoughts that were going through my head. I didn't know how to make good friends because I wasn't being a good friend. I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship because I wasn't having the ability to communicate or clearly state what I needed in my life. I decided to do everything different, take the opposite approach to everything I had ever learned growing up. I grew up in a dysfunctional, loud, crazy house, filled with love, but also filled with a lot of self-doubt, anxiety, and stress. I didn't want that for my kids, and I sure as heck didn't want that for my future. So when I took the boys for a hike with my dog, I walked down a path knowing that I could meet somebody and I was open to meeting somebody. But most importantly, I knew that I had the ability to make good choices. I started to learn how to listen to my gut, how to develop self-confidence, how to make connections with people. I truly believe that we can build connections, develop our self-confidence at any age, that it doesn't have to come from birth. It doesn't have to come naturally. You don't have to be charismatic or interesting from the very beginning. A lot of the times what happens to us is that we freeze. We get nervous. We allow those negative thoughts take over. So that was my goal. That was my hope, is that over these last decade, that I was going to build a community of people that lifted me up and I lifted them up, that I felt connected and empowered and inspired by them. Joe inspired me and his entire family and welcomed me into his life. And I just adore it. And I adore him.
I rambled.
Enough.